And that distance
I think
learning
distance
point
learning
was
falls
the
under
second.
Yeah, you look at distance learning, clinical education, funding, effective curriculum, articulation between programs. All of those ideas really fit under this kind of an umbrella. And maybe there is some sort of a guiding group that could work with that. I think also that's a place where there's a lot of room for private investment in terms of both the data collection, which helps all of us make better decisions, but also in making those initiatives that are very expensive to get started.
Okay, we have a problem. We have a lot of problems. But the first, and I have to go through the sequence this down in my mind. The first problem that we have is getting people admitted, qualified people admitted to our programs. We all agree that we have a waiting list, both baccalaureate and associate degree waiting lists. And so we're not getting all of the people educated that we could. So that's the first problem. So how do we solve that? We know one way we're going to solve it is by increasing the number of faculty and the pay, which those two things go together.
And I think a second thing that was brought up, I think in our report, and it may have come out in the reports, but I didn't get to hear this morning, although I read them, and that it would be collaborating with our practice partners, hospitals, probably mostly hospitals. That's where you have more of your masters and doctorally prepared people, but perhaps public health agencies and so on, to maximize that expertise that we could bring on to our faculty. It might not be hiring full-time faculty out of, I don't want to take them all out of the hospital, they need them there, but have some sort of collaborative, shared kind of approach to doing the work of educating that next generation.
Right. So I think that's one recommendation. You all agree with that? Okay. And then I think another one is making this educational opportunity affordable. We've got that up there. And we certainly have in the body of this report, we have several good ideas on how we can make this more affordable that Jill and Jane and the rest of the staff can close out.
Making sure he does a little editing here so something doesn't
Well, you
get
have
lost.
a minute, you.
Under, efficiency and collaboration, also I think there's, additional collaboration we can do within communities and working with school systems and trying to, the pipeline starts early on. It starts in junior high into high school and then, initial career and then second career folk. And so we have to figure out how we can tap in, and use those other relationships that we have, not just the clinical site relationships, but also, educational system relationships. And I mean, I think about some of the things we're doing in our town to start recruiting people to healthcare workplace in junior high. We're virtually out there in the junior high talking to these students, trying to recruit them to nursing.
Good point. So if we get them in, we get enough qualified applicants, qualified instructors. We get them educated. Then we have to deal with some of the ideas, reasons that they do not stay. Why we cannot retain them in the profession, right? Everyone agree with that? And that brings our whole salary issue and our national ranking and all of those issues that Sarah and her committee worked on into play. And if you have specific, Sarah, you or any of your committee members have specific things that you want in the executive summary, this is the time to talk about it. Realizing this is an executive summary, your entire piece will be in the document. But What do we do? Do we want some goal of within so many years we try to bring nurses' salaries up to a national average, or?
We have a goal. I'm just going to look it up quickly.
On page 51.
51.
When we were initially had our discussion, Governor, we talked about having, putting a number on our long-term and short-term goals, like 10 years, 5 years, or 8 years, 3 years. And then we stepped back on that because our ultimate goal is that Iowa RNs will rank in the top half of the nation for annual mean wages as measured by the USPLS and IWD, and no particular date. I think we were at a loss for what was a realistic date. Is it 5 years? Is it, I mean, I'm not sure.
I just throw that out to the group here.
I'm thinking, what, you teachers were 3 years, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go more than 5. Might be a little late by then.
I appreciated the Lieutenant Governor's analogy to the importance that was given to teacher salaries, and that looking at a number over a 3-year period or 2 years, but really, getting it through and getting it going. It took about 3 years. I think if we could have Iowa nurses to at least the 50th percentile in 3 years, that would be a doable but also respectable goal. Do you agree with that, Sarah?
Well, I agree with it. Yes. I think
my committee, our committee is nodding, so.
I mean, and we're smiling. I think that this is good language just to add at the end, then within 3 years.
I think you should also include it with the
using.
Well, the strategies are the short-term goals and then the related action items. So you can see that they were initiate the review of rules and regulations, target Medicaid resources to RN wages, assure parity in wages for school nurses, create competitive wages for nursing faculty, which you may already have, and conduct a survey to determine wage distribution by employer and job classification.
Okay, I think all the surveys, all of the language we have about surveying, number crunching, information gathering, and so forth, all belongs in the number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's been.
And our committee our subcommittee had agreement, even though it's not explicit in our report, that was a big priority for all of us.
I think, is that pretty much everyone agrees that number 1 up there is just really necessary.
Yeah.
And to have a common set of that data and understanding, because I hear different numbers.
Well, I mean, I've scratched my head all the way through this.
Trying to figure out what a wait list is versus an applicant pool, for example.
But I think we can just take some of your action items there with our.
Just to not lose it, could we put parenthetically like wage surveys? Actually, because I think the wage surveys may be done easily for us by workforce development, working in coordination with the center for what details how they instruct workforce development.
This is Cheryl. I just have a question. Knowing that education is an entitlement program and health is not, are our strategies for getting nurses' salaries up? I mean, what are some of the? I know what's happened in healthcare over the years. If we don't have enough money to do stuff, we just don't do it. It's not required. I know in education, even though there may not be as much money as you wanted, at least something is done. What are some of our issues? Since we're not an entitlement, does that present us with some different challenges than we're used in getting teacher salaries to a higher level? And is it gonna be at the expense of any services for patients? That's one of the things I worry about. We've got so few resources now. I just wanna be sure that